Hi everyone, I'm Josh Wright. I recently reached out to another very well-known YouTube piano teacher, Paul Barton, and asked him, hey, would you like to do a collaboration of some sort sometime? I would love for our audiences to get to know each other's channels. He runs a very successful YouTube channel, and we've been doing it about the same length of time. And he said, well, this is kind of a out of the ordinary idea, but what if I painted your portrait as people got to know you and answered some questions that you may not already have covered on your YouTube channel? I said, well, I would have never thought of that, but that sounds like a lot of fun. And I have seen his art channel. He has both a piano teaching channel and an art channel, and it is phenomenal. He is an amazing artist in addition to being a great pianist and teacher. So let's get started. I'm originally from Utah in the United States, and I currently live here with my wife and baby daughter, who is 2 years old. They are the loves of my life, along with piano, of course. I spent a few years back at the University of Michigan getting my doctorate degree in piano performance, studying with Dr. Logan Skelton. I also have had the opportunity to study with Sergei Babayan, as well as my lifelong teacher, who I started with when I was 9 years old, Dr. Susan Duelmeyer. My passion for piano originally began when my mom was teaching piano lessons in our basement, and I would beg her every day, can I please take piano lessons? And when I was around 4.5 years old, she said, fine, I'll teach you all of the names of the notes. Of course, she'd let me tinker around with the piano whenever I wanted to, but she didn't want to start me too early to the point where I'd lose interest. So it was quite smart of her. She had me go stand in the corner after she taught me the names of each of the notes and said, Kate, say these names back to me, the names of these notes back to me. And I thought, okay, I guess this is a standard exercise she does with all of her students. And she said, oh my goodness, you can do that. You have perfect pitch. And a 4.5-year-old doesn't think much of that, but it has been a blessing to have perfect pitch, and sometimes actually a curse in certain theory and music history classes when they start playing things in different keys so you can't cheat and just memorize the name of the key that you're in. So that's how I originally got started playing the piano, as just from my mom. And of course, as a 4.5-year-old, you know everything. So within a few months, I knew too much for her piano teaching. So I ended up going to my grandma, who taught me for 4.5 years. And she was unbelievably amazing teacher. And I feel so lucky to have got to study with her. She instilled a very great love for music and art and everything beautiful in life. My grandma is a very classy lady. She's an accomplished painter, pianist, organist, and does many other things. The first piece of music that really grabbed my attention that I can remember was a piece that was performed at the Utah Symphony. I can't even remember what piece it was. However, it was Ryan Brown of the Five Browns playing with the Utah Symphony. My parents, my dad's a stonemason. My mom grew up. She did some piano studies in college. She played piano throughout her whole life. But I don't come from, classical professional musician background. And it was amazing that my parents would take the time to buy season tickets to go see all of these concerts with the Utah Symphony, especially when my dad had grown up with basically no music in his household. He could play a couple of church hymns, and that's about it. And I remember seeing Ryan play, and I turned to my parents and I said, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. And they said, oh, really? Okay. And so they talked to my grandma and they said, he wants to do this. What do you think we should do? And she said, I think it's time for him to go to a more advanced teacher. So that's when I went to Dr. Susan Duelmeyer. And within, I think, about a year, I had learned my first Mozart concerto, and I played it with a little 9-piece orchestra that Susan had put together for a few of her students. And I remember that was so thrilling for me. It's the Mozart concerto in E-flat major, K271. And I remember playing that as a young boy and just being so excited, so filled with passion. And I said, I want to keep doing this. I really want to play with the Utah Symphony. She said, okay, we're going to have to work like crazy. So we ended up learning the Mendelssohn Concerto in G minor, third movement. Beautiful piece. And I won a local competition, which then qualified me to audition for the Utah Symphony. And by some stroke of luck and really good preparation and help from my teacher, I was able to play with the Utah Symphony. It was very tough to get that opportunity. I remember she was saying, even though you qualified to audition, there was like 50 kids, and I think only 7 or 8 of us were chosen. So Part of it was luck because they had to make a nice program that would flow, but I was the youngest kid on the concert, and that set me up for a lot of years of continuing to want to compete internationally, to play as much music of Chopin as I could. I remember I played all the etudes when I started learning them when I was 13, and then I recorded all of them when I was 15. And that was a passion project for me. And I wanted to just have music be a part of my life every single day. My childhood heroes and greatest influencers were obviously my parents and Susan Duhlmeyer, my teacher. I also am very religious, so I feel that God has played the most monumental role in helping me in my life. My beautiful wife, Lindsay, when I turned, I think it was 16, I asked her on a date and said, and we had dinner and we went to a movie. It was a great time. And then I thought, oh, what excuse could I use to have this beautiful girl continue to hang out with me? So I thought, she's really good at theory and I am terrible at theory. So what if I asked her for theory lessons before I went to college, because I was doing early admissions up to the university. So she said, oh yeah, let's do that. And we became great friends and we started dating, fell in love. So she was obviously a major influence in my life as well. So far as pianistic heroes, Murray Pariah was my most influential favorite concert pianist. I remember obsessing over Murray Pariah's sound. I remember this one piece in particular, the Chopin Concerto No. 2, and I've done video tutorials on this particular passage, getting that pearly sound. I remember thinking, how is he doing that? And it was so life-changing. And same thing with the Mozart Concerto. How does he get that light touch? I would obsess over his recordings. I would listen to them over and over and over again. So I would say Murray Pariah was one of my greatest influences, only to be trumped by Sergei Babayan when I met Sergei Babayan, and after the first lesson with him at his Sergei Babayan International Piano Academy, my mind was completely blown, and I thought, I've never experienced music quite like I do when I am listening to him talk about music. It is life-changing. If anyone knows him and has observed his lessons or his concerts, you know what I'm talking about. To be honest, I don't do a whole lot outside of piano because I teach privately, I perform, so that requires a lot of practice. I do a lot of free video tutorials on YouTube, and I have a lot of paid online video courses as well. So that takes up the majority of my time, but things I like to do outside of playing the piano is traveling with my family. We've been very fortunate because of piano to travel to many places in Europe. Some of my favorites were Iceland and Poland and Norway. It's just beautiful. I'm totally in love with Scandinavia, especially. I also really enjoy playing golf, and I also like weightlifting. A funny story or anecdote. Mr. Babayan, if you're watching this, I apologize again for being so ridiculous that night. But part of my religion is I don't drink coffee, tea, or consume tobacco or alcohol. That's very important to preface this story. So my friend Jolt and I were getting ready to go to dinner, and he said, why don't we invite Mr. Babayan to meet us at dinner? And so I said, okay, that sounds great. So we call him, and he said, and I'll do my best Babayan accent. I'm sure I'll botch it, but he said, oh, wonderful. I would love to meet you for dinner. Please meet me at Great Lakes Brewing Company. They have the best beers. And so we arrive, and he said, what beer will you get, Joshua? And I said, and Jolt actually said, oh, Mr. Babayan, Josh doesn't drink alcohol. And so Mr. Babayan said, okay, no problem. Waiter, bring Joshua non-alcoholic beer. And so when the waiter brought it, Mr. Babayan said, I must try this. I have never tried non-alcoholic beer. And so he tried it. He's like, that is disgusting. Why would you order such a thing? So funny. So I thought, okay, we're out of the woods here. So he said, my apartment is just down the street. Let's go back up for some dessert. And so I said, okay. And he said, as we walked into the apartment, what would you prefer, coffee or tea? And I thought, oh boy, actually, I don't drink either of those as well. And so he said, oh, for Joshua, just water. Okay. And after he finished his coffee and I had my water and Jolt had his coffee or tea, he said, I am afraid to ask, but maybe you want to go out onto the porch and have a smoke with me, or maybe you don't do that either. And I said, oh no, you're right. And I thought, oh, thank heavens, we've covered all 4 bases now. I can't possibly offend him anymore. And so he came back inside. He said, for dessert, a beautiful pecan pie from Whole Foods. And I said, I am so sorry, but I am allergic to nuts. So that was probably the funniest and most embarrassing story of my musical life with a teacher. So Mr. Babayan, I'm sorry again, but that always has stuck in my mind as a great memory and something I'll always cherish is that night with you and Jolt. So thank you so much. One of the great life lessons that I've learned through studying music is an extreme sense of gratitude. Not only is it amazing that we have access to play music as human beings, but to have access to the greatest minds in history right available at our fingertips. Now that we have the internet, we have music sites like imslp.org where you can find pretty much any score ever that has been published. The accessibility we have to amazing recordings of the greatest pianists in history ever since recording was available. It's just mind-blowing how many resources we have. So I have learned an extreme sense of gratitude through playing. I think we are so lucky to be able to play the music of our favorite composers each day and to really have so many resources to help us, even if you can't afford traditional lessons. That's why Paul and that's why I make all of these YouTube video tutorials to help people around the world and hopefully spread some of the knowledge that we've learned during our studies. So I hope that both of our efforts with spreading music can help each of you in your studies. My word of encouragement for anyone wanting to study piano is twofold. First of all, just enjoy the process. That is so important. Try not to get discouraged by comparing yourself. Never compare yourself to other people. You will always be able to find a young 6-year-old pianist that can play better than you on YouTube. I remember playing Opus 10 No. 2 and watching small 12 and 13-year-olds play it fluidly and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just absolutely terrible. However, that's a piece that is a work in progress for many pianists. That's one of the hardest Chopin etudes, and I think one of the hardest pieces in the piano repertoire. So just keep going. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process of working out the problems that you face in your playing. Don't give up. And the second thing that I would say is always find a moment in the music that you're most passionate about. The thing that fills you up with passion, the thing that inspires you, it's revelatory, and build your piece around that moment. That will be transmitted to the audience. If you love the music you're playing and you pour that emotion into it and you really refine it to such a degree, the audience will feel that. And that is what music is all about, is communication with others about the emotions you're experiencing and something that you want them to feel. I just would like to say a huge thank you to Paul Barton for painting my portrait. This is such a crazy, fun idea. I thought that we would maybe do some piano teaching collaboration, but this is way better. Totally creative on his part. I take no credit at all for any of this. Thank you so much, Paul, for making this video. This has been a fun collaboration. I would highly recommend each of you go over to both his YouTube piano teaching channel as well as his art channel and subscribe. I hope all of you have a great week. Good luck in your practice sessions.